Hi everyone, I thought to give you a worked example of a qualitative analysis flowchart kind of a question. And this particular example here gives us an overview of what kind of processes are happening here on an unknown solid A. Now, if you look at such kinds of a reaction scheme, it might be quite daunting, but try to look through the whole scheme and start somewhere that you're familiar with. And I think if you are thinking along the same line as what I'm thinking, and I hope that is the case, you might want to start with the colorless gas C, because lime water is something that is very specific. And you do see the white precipitate G that is being formed. And I hope that you can conclude that this tells us that colorless gas C is carbon dioxide. Because when this carbon dioxide is passed through lime water, which is calcium hydroxide, it does form a white precipitate G, which is otherwise known as calcium carbonate. Now, this means if we backtrack, this means that the carbon dioxide came from the reaction between green solid A and dilute sulfuric acid. And it tells us that probably green solid A is a carbonate. But we are not going to be going there yet. We can look at what blue solution B is. Now, because it is something that is reacted, that is obtained from the reaction with dilute sulfuric acid, it tells us that blue solution B has to be a sulfate. And with the blue color, it is a giveaway that copper 2 ions are present, and therefore blue solution B is none other than copper 2 sulfate. Now, as you crystallize it, okay, you get a blue solid D, which is still the same compound, copper 2 sulfate. It's just that now this is the hydrated version because it is a crystal. So crystals are hydrated salts, and blue solid D is therefore hydrated copper 2 sulfate. Now, as you heat this blue solid D, you drive off the water of crystallization and you get behind, you leave behind a white solid E, and this white solid is none other than anhydrous copper 2 sulfate. And you realize that now you have done almost 80% of this whole reaction scheme, and it's time to go back to find out what green solid A is. Now, even though it is green in color, you might be thinking it should be iron 2, but because the product blue solution B was copper 2 sulfate, and therefore it means that green solid A has to contain copper 2 ions as well. It is, in fact, copper 2 carbonate. Now, you might be thinking, why copper 2 but green color? Now, there are some very special compounds of copper that are, in fact, green in color, and copper 2 carbonate is one of them. Now, when you heat this copper 2 carbonate, the process thermal decomposition will take place and it will leave behind a black colored solid F. And this black solid is none other than copper 2 oxide. Now, you will notice that what's missing between green solid A and black solid F will be CO2 based on the formula that is shown. And that is true, okay, because what happens during heating is that it decomposes and it produces a solid copper 2 oxide as well as carbon dioxide. And this, I hope this summarizes what you have learned so far in QA, and it is an appropriate example for you to look through. Thank you.